Hi, it's Jon Cronshaw here with my author diary for the weekend in April the 16th, 2023. I've had most of this week off for various reasons. The main one being is the Easter holiday, so my son has been off school. Also, I had a virus, not Rona, but I was on my ass for a couple of days, so that wasn't fun. Wednesday? I think I must have slept for 18 hours. Thursday, just kind of walking around in a bit of a haze. Friday now, and I'm feeling all right. So seems to be okay now. Just, I don't know, a couple of days of just feeling completely rough. I do have really bad hay fever as well, which isn't helping. But I've just got some stronger tablets, so we'll see if that helps. In terms of writing, I did get a bit done for the Orphan Farm Boy of Destiny, so I'm working through the rewrites of that. I think I'm up to probably about 10,000 words into that. So, it's going to be probably around 18,000 word mark when it's finished. So yeah, I'm getting there with that. I have sent out the third episode to my mailing list, so I'm going to keep sending it out weekly for the next few weeks. I think that'll probably be 8 episodes, because I'm sending out about 2,000 words at a time. So in terms of reading, I read, because of being in bed yesterday, I managed to read a few books this week. Most of them non-fiction. I read one called Flight Plans by Brian Tracy, which is basically about, when you are on an aeroplane. It's basically one of those books where it's a metaphor that is extended for an entire book, and is meant to help you with life and success and things like that. So this is about how when you're on a flight, 98% of the time, you're not actually where you're meant to be going. You're not on the right path. There's always course corrections along the way. And it's just about applying that to your business and things like that. So yeah, interesting book, interesting concept. Definitely recommend it. I've read a few of Brian Tracy's books. I think the one that was probably most impactful was one called Eat That Frog, which was just about getting the stuff you fear, doing the most out of the way, and then you can do the stuff that you enjoy. So yeah, it's as I say, it is simple one-line concept dragged out for a book. So you could probably just tell people from the title what the book is and everything you'll get from it. Also read a book called, 10 Books That Screwed Up the World and 5 That Didn't. I thought this was going to be good. It started off well, but I realised probably about, a third of the way through that actually the writer had quite an agenda. So I think that it was written from someone who hated atheists and wanted to kind of put forward a kind of American evangelical thing, a message through criticising books, and books that fairly need criticising, to be honest. But the criticisms as you got through the book were like, oh, I see what your agenda is here. So I didn't like that. Because it was too heavy-handed. I think there's a lot of fair criticisms to have of the books in there, and of the list I would have picked 6 or 7. But yeah, really obvious what the agenda was and what they were trying to pull. And then in terms of fiction, I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This was really good. It was kind of about someone whose life was a bit crap and they tried to commit suicide, and they end up in this library, which is where they can go through all their regrets and relive the life as if they'd made that decision. So it's kind of like a multiverse kind of thing. And it was like, oh, what if I'd carried on being in that band? Or what if I'd, asked this person out? What if I'd married this person? So it was all those kind of things. And it was very good, very well done. Had kind of vibes of, It's a Wonderful Life or A Christmas Carol kind of thing, but with more of a let's call it a modern literary bent with stuff about the multiverse and quantum physics and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely recommend that. What else? Oh yeah, I'm reading Death of Kings by Bernard Cornwell. So this is book, I think, number 6 in his Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. So yeah, really enjoying that so far. I'm only about a quarter of the way through, but I do like this series. So yeah, definitely check that out. Even if you're not into historical fiction, I think, if you're a fantasy reader, check it out anyway. It's basically epic fantasy without the magic. And then, what is it? Yeah, next week is all about getting back to Ravenglass Legends. So I'm going to carry on with Ravenglass Legends book 4. I've got the first draft, just need to do the rewrites. I'm also going to do a bit on Orphan Farm Boy of Destiny, but of course that is just a, what would you call it, like a side project. My priority is the Ravenglass Legends series, so that is what I will be working on. I'll probably spend one day next week on Orphan Boy. So yeah, that'll be good. I have had some questions this week, a couple of questions. Let me just say, Alex Luco asked, this was on Twitter. I'm at Jon_Cronshaw on Twitter, so you can ask me questions. What's the most rewarding feedback you've received from a reader? I'm a bit funny when it comes to reviews. Like, I don't put any stock in reviews and the opinions of readers. I see them as data points and, they're useful for things like that. But what I do get is emails from readers. And I think the most rewarding part of what I do is knowing that that something from my imagination has helped people through difficult circumstances. And I'll give you a few examples. So there was, my book Night of the Wasteland, which is set in a flooded city. The person who read it, she read it while her home had been flooded. I think it was in Houston floods years ago. And she said that story really helped her through that, trying experience. And then I've had loads of emails. Until last September, my most successful month as an author was during the first COVID lockdown. And a lot of people wrote to me saying that my book was the perfect escapism. My Ravenglass Chronicles helped them through that period. So that is great. If I can be a bright spot in someone's life when they're going through a difficult time, brilliant. So that is the most rewarding thing. Not necessarily feedback, but kind of is. Mike Van Horn, he asked this on the Ravenglass Legends Facebook group. Ravenglass Universe Facebook group. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to get mixed up with all my titles because they're too similar, aren't I? This has not happened before with Dawn of Assassins and Birth of Assassins and accidentally putting out the wrong book on the day of the launch. No. So, yeah, Ravenglass Universe Facebook. Mike Van Horn, sci-fi author, he asked me, what's the difference between fantasy and sci-fi? I don't know. I'm sure there's smarter people than me who have looked into this in a lot of detail. My inclinations are, I would say sci-fi is about technology and asking what if. So, Yeah, you could go, what if people lived on the moon? What if we had a generation ship that went to, a different galaxy? What if robots took over the world? What if we lived in a simulation? They're the kind of questions that I feel are the centre to a lot of sci-fi stuff. Also, sci-fi is usually, a lot of it is realistic in our world or in our universe or a future speculation of our universe. Whereas fantasy, I think you need to have either a secondary universe or a magical version of our universe. Magic. You don't need, this is the thing. It's like, It's like in philosophy where you get like necessary and sufficient conditions. Like, I would say that a secondary world is sufficient but not necessary for a fantasy. I would say that magic is sufficient but not necessary for a fantasy. And I think as well with fantasy you get a lot of things where it is more thematic. So, where sci-fi might be about what happens if we introduce this technology, fantasy will be like, what does empire mean, or what does duty mean. So yeah, there's different, but it depends on the author, because some fantasy, some sci-fi, it's very close. Like Star Wars. Star Wars is what depends on who you ask. Could be a sci-fi, it could be a fantasy. I'd say it's a science fantasy. But you can make the sci-fi argument because, you could go, what if there was a weapon that could destroy a planet? That's your Death Star. That is where the conflict is in that story. But then you've also got the Force, which is magic. And, it's got a hero's journey. So, yeah, I think as well, I think it was Orson Scott Card talked about this, but it's basically that the same thing, like telekinesis. If you had telekinetic powers, if you had those in an environment that was, let's say, on a spaceship, that would be sci-fi. If you had the same skills, same story told in a castle, it would be a fantasy. So his argument is that it's an aesthetic, that it is, sci-fi, future, fantasy, the past. If you've got plastic and steel, then it's sci-fi. If you've got stone and wood, then it's, fantasy, whatever. So, I don't know is the answer, really. I think it's, when I see it, I know what it is. I think we can all kind of tell, but I think the lines are blurry, and what is sci-fi to one person might be fantasy to another. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because stories are stories. And if you believe some writers, there's only about 3 or 4 stories anyway. So, who cares? Right. So if you've got a question anyway, and you want a rambling answer that is inconclusive and indecisive, then you can @ me on Twitter, Jon_Cronshaw. That's JON_CRONSHAW. You can also find me on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/Jon Cronshaw author. And there is the Ravenglass Universe Facebook group. So, if you're on YouTube, remember to hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So until next time, cheerio.